Today, in fact, I have planned to introduce you to the field of fuzzy logic also. A few minutes we'll spend on that because we can do a project both on neural networks as well as fuzzy logic. Okay? So if you want to do it in neural network, you can do it. If you want to do it in fuzzy logic also, you can do it. So the final project, uh, it can be evaluated your final exam, okay, based on the kind of project you are going to do. So naturally, you should know something about fuzzy logic to start with, so that you can start working on that direction also. Okay, so, so the last class we were discussing about the gradient descent algorithm, and then we discussed about the angle and all. Okay, remember the gradient 90-degree angle. Okay, the direction of move, that is the updated weight that we intend to move in, should be 180 degree with respect to the gradient. What is the gradient? Dou E by the dou W or dou L by dou theta. Okay, theta here is comprising of the parameters W and B. So this is what we discussed in the last class, and then along with that, we also understood the function. Okay, the log sigmoidal function when we are going to introduce in the neural network. Okay, like this 1 by 1 plus exponential of minus wx plus b. When you are introducing what's happening when you are going for the first derivative. Okay, dou by dou w of that error. Okay, f of x minus y the whole square error. That function is going to really help us, primarily because the derivative of that function now with respect to w, it's coming to a very what do you call it, mathematically convenient form. This is f of x into 1 minus f of x into x. So if you can go to, if you are going to work with a Python code for this kind of derivative, it's quite easy. We not compute the derivative, simply plug in those values. F of x, you know what is y, f of x, 1 minus f of x. Okay, so simply you can plug in those values. That's the power. Okay? This expression is quite important in the back propagation algorithm, which you are going to see next. Okay, so the multi-layered perceptron. So this is for, yeah, this is the Python code. In fact, we discussed. Any difficulty in understanding this code? Anybody? If anywhere you find it difficult, go through the code. Okay, again, run this code in Google Colab and see what's happening. Okay, so we also learned something about the representation power of a multi-layer network of perceptrons. Okay, I hope you can recall that idea. So remember, we started off with sigmoidal neuron. Okay, then we proceeded with sigmoid logistic neuron. So this is the kind of neural network we are talking about. Fitting a function, all right. Gradient descent. I think this point is all right. Then representation power. So what is the representation power of neural network we learned? Can you recall that? Can you recall this idea? Anybody? Just give out your views on this representation. What you are trying to do? Yeah. So this is where we stopped in the last class. Okay. So what is this diagram tells you about? Can somebody put in words this diagram? You remember the classification power of neural networks? For example, some complex data. Okay. On the outside you have positive. Now I would like to separate out this pattern, this classification, this pattern separately from the outside pattern. So you cannot draw lines here. Okay, so you need to think in terms of functions like this. Okay, so remember the kind of functions we are talking about like this. That's what in fact the representation power helps you. Okay, look at this kind of function we are ending up in finally. So this function is what I am talking about. In order to get this kind of representation, we need to build from the scratch. Okay, different kinds of what do you call log sigmoidal functions. We'll be adjusting the weights and biases, and then we are combining it in a very intelligent manner to get those particular curve. But this is something the machine will take care. Okay, that's the power. So through the repeated iterations, the number of iterations increases. The machine will be in a position to find an approximation. Okay, find a kind of classification curve. The same manner also you can think of the regression also. You recall what is the difference between regression? Okay, regression also you can think of. Here we are building some complex classifying functions like this. The same manner, regression also, if I would have a data set like this. And I want to fit a line to it. So a single line will not be sufficient. So I need to look for a particular function, something like this, a complex function. Okay. So for that I need to build towers. Okay. So this kind of a towers is what we are talking about. Okay. So this kind of a tower is what we are talking. So we need to choose towers in such a fashion that these towers is going to approximate this curve. Okay. This towers are going to approximate this curve. So that's what in fact you can see in this website. Okay, so it is a visual proof that neural networks can compute any function. The last class I told you to go through it. Anybody have visited this website again? The class? See this kind of functions. So I want to. This is a regression problem. Okay, so in order to fix a line, I have to build towers like this. Gradually, I'll be fitting those towers. So I can build any kind of tower like this. Okay, so a group of data here, there is another group of data here. I can build towers. Anything over this or below that can be different classes. Okay. So that's what this idea is. Any doubts so far in this lecture? You can go through again the professor's lecture also, my lecture also, gain more insights on this particular idea. This is a very powerful idea. Those who are planning for machine learning related projects or something in the near future, these ideas will definitely help you. Okay, to think carefully and work out. Okay. So now let us move ahead to the topic of fuzzy logic.
So, sir,
yeah.
Sir, one small doubt, sir. Sir,
yeah.
We are what you say constructing towers to guess the next one, no, sir?
No, the idea is that that is right. So the idea is something like this. There are two problems. Okay. The first problem is with respect to the first problem is with respect to the classification. You build towers like this. Okay, the kind of tower you're talking about, it is something like this. Like this. Okay. So here there are two patterns. There are two patterns you would like to separate out. These two patterns they belong to the same class, and anything outside this belong to a different class. You understand? So anything outside this tower, they belong to different class, and anything inside this particular tower, inside that one is a particular class. So we would like to separate such a kind of data. So that's classification problem. The next problem, in fact, I'm talking about here is a kind of a regression problem. Regression problem in the sense you have a data set. Okay, the data set is like this. Very simple data. Now what do? You try to fit a line to it. Okay. So then how do you choose this line? You choose W and B in such a fashion that your Y equal to mx plus B. This is the bias, this is the weight. Okay, therefore Y equal to Wx plus B. So choose one particular weight and one particular bias. Okay, that can satisfy this problem. So that's what we mean by what do you call it? You start with some random weight. Your data is here. The random weight and bias, it may be somewhere here, maybe somewhere here, maybe somewhere here. Anywhere it may be a line. Originally the line may be anywhere. Then gradually you identify the error between those points and the corresponding line, and then minimize that error. Again, the same manner, error square will be minimized by dou E by dou W, dou E by dou B. Okay, minimize the same manner and try to minimize the error so that your line will pass through the point. Okay, almost perfectly you cannot get. Almost if it is passing through with a minimal error, then you'll be happy. So in that case, that line is a function. Okay.
Okay, sir.
That line is a function. Now the neural network has learned something from the data, the line function. Now when you are going to give a new input, for example, the input can be somewhere around here, this point. Okay, for this new input, there will be a corresponding output located on the line, is it not? Normally that's what curve fitting is all about. So I need to use this input. If I go to give that input, okay, to my trained neural network. Initially, you identified the weight and biases now. So for that particular weight and bias, for the given input, new input, the network will be in a position to predict what is the corresponding output. So that's the kind of problem you're talking about: prediction, forecasting, regression. Okay. So that problem is slightly different. Now for that also, okay, if the data is going to be, if this is going to be like this, simply you can use one single neuron to work out this problem. Okay, for this problem, line fitting problem, you can use one single neuron. But it can also be in a multi-dimensional space. It can be a curve like this, a complicated data. Okay, something like this. Over the years, you have collected data, something you have obtained like this. These are all the data points. Okay. So in that case, what you need to do, you need to put a curve like this, polynomial curve.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so for fitting those curve also, you need to build towers like this.
Okay, sir.
This kind of a tower is what. So normally in integration, you might have learned this now. Approximating a curve by taking that integration of this kind of rectangular units. Integration, you might have learned that. Finding out the area.
Yes, sir.
So here also you can do that approximation. Okay.
Sir, one doubt, sir. Sir, in this, do we build towers, sir, or is that for the classification of one, sir? Tower construction, is it only for the classification, or do we use that even in regression?
I think in regression also will be using. Maybe this diagram will be of very helpful. Go back here. So here its professor is trying to do that. See? So this is the kind of curve we are talking about. Okay. So he's trying to build towers here. Maybe I'll go to Diksharaj. We'll see that 1 minute.
Yes.
This is the course I'm talking about. If you go to this course, you can notice something here. Okay, neural network is a universal approximation. It's a very powerful idea. Neural network is a universal approximation. You can fix any function using this. See here. So this is for Boolean MLP. Yeah. Kind of thing we're talking. Compression. Tower is being built like this. For classification. Classification, it's for classification purpose. Yeah. I think it's all, yeah, this is the kind of talking. Can you see it now?
Sir.
Yeah, now you can see very clearly. So for fitting a curve also we can go for this. Okay.
Sir, my doubt is, sir, we are constructing a tower using the what do you say, preset values, sir.
No, it is not preset values. You are going to allow the network to learn. Okay, for so many number of iterations, it will look for all possibilities. That's the power of computation.
I didn't get that, sir. Can you repeat that?
No, the point is, these neurons, when you're going to sufficient number of neurons, you're going to select, and you're going to leave it with some random initial weights and biases. It will learn by itself based on the learning rule.
No, sir. It needs some label data, no, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
That only, sir. This line is constructed using those label data, no, sir.
Yeah.
So till h, can you go to the diagram for the graph?
Yeah.
Till h of n, we know the label data is there.
Yeah.
And if there is a value of x beyond h of n, what will be the value of h, sir? How will it go? Like
That's
very
where
random.
That's the problem of generalization in neural network. See, there is a problem called generalization of this neural network. See, when you are going to collect a data, okay, it's going to come from a particular distribution, probabilistic distribution. Okay, so you're going to collect some data. See, you have only these data points. We don't know the distribution. You understand? We have only this data point. The data is collected through some experiment, or you are collecting from some directly going and collecting some data, but we don't know what kind of distribution this particular data belongs to. Okay.
So what do you mean by that, sir?
What we can no, the data normally can be generated by some random process. Okay, normal distribution is there. For example, data can be normally distributed, or it can be Poisson distributed. So different probabilistic distributions are there. Okay. The data can be from any one of these distributions. Okay. From any one of the distribution, but we don't know the distribution. If we know the distribution, then to a good level of extent we can predict it. Okay. But we don't know this distribution, and we have only this data. And what we are trying to do is, one thing is what we are doing is we are trying to classify this data, or we are trying to fit a curve through this data using our neural network weights and biases. Okay. So once you have done with this is called the training phase, they call it. In the training phase, you can identify the weights and biases. Once you have done with that, then we need to go in for the next phase that's more important in neural network. They call it as a test phase. Test phase, you are going to test with some new data. Again, you need to go and collect from these same instances, or you can divide your training data into two sets. Training data set and test data set. Now, after having trained the network, you need to use this new data. Okay, that's what you are saying. In the future, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so in that case, I have to collect the data at this point. This point, I need to take a data and see how the network is behaving. Okay, so if it is, see, the fundamental problem is, first of all, we don't know what kind of network we are talking about. How many number of neurons we should have. All these are trial and error. Okay, how many layers we need to have. Okay, because if it is going to be a line in a two-dimensional thing, okay, what do we need to have? We need to have only one weight and one bias. Because if we start with that, so naturally we'll take one neuron with one weight and one bias, we'll finish up the work. But the data, what we have collected, okay, it's only from this region. Okay, but in the original real world, the data may be initially like this, and then gradually it may go like this. Then what happens? You could have trained your network only with this data set, so you could have fit a line like this. Okay, with only one neuron, you have trained your network. But when the new data comes for this point, okay, this is the original real data, but your network will predict something like this. This data will predict. You understand the point what I'm saying? It's thinking it is line, but the real world data is somewhere here. Okay, because you have collected data only from this batch of data set. Okay, but you have missed this data. So that's why a rich collection of data normally is going to help. A rich collection of data. That's why big data is playing a big role in machine learning. You understand why big data is playing a big role?
Okay, sir.
Can somebody tell me why it is playing a big role? Primarily because when you have more number of data, the chances of missing out that's going to be very less. Missing out some data is going to be very less. You have collected a huge chunk of data. Okay, and you're going to train your network with a GPU, graphical using processor unity and all. So because of that, the network will be in a position to generalize to a good extent. Generalize in the sense, for new data, it can respond properly. Okay, so that's why you need to see, if somebody is going to say, I'm trained with 2000 data, normally I won't agree. The reason is, it's anyway it's going to fail some point. Okay, but to a reasonable level, in fact, over a particular operating zones, over a particular operating regions, okay, with a lot of assumptions, we can agree with it. Because for control purpose and all those training, machine system identification, they call it model building and all. Normally, you fix the operating range and you work on it. So for that particular case, it may work well. Okay, then we can agree. Okay, but wherever it's feasible, okay, if it is feasible for you to fit an analytical model for your given data. For example, I know my data is like this. I can very well fix always in a polynomial function like this. A higher order polynomial function. And I know that if my data is not varying too much, and I have limited amount of data sets. So fitting this kind of statistical models, okay, will be much better solution than going for a neural network or machine learning. So this is something you need to think carefully. Okay. So my problem, do I really require a kind of a neural network or not? So that you need to think. Always neural network will not be the solution. Okay. So you should think whether it's a standard statistical techniques for linear regression and all. It's basically a regression problem, linear regression problem they call it. Fitting a line like this. Okay. Neural network also is trying to do that. But statistical based approaches is also feasible, is what I'm saying. Okay. Instead of going for a machine learning approach, you can go for statistical approaches also.
Sure.
So for complex functions, the data is multi-dimensional. Okay, for example, image-based data, we'll be talking about 10,000 dimensions. With the huge amount of data sets you have, it's always preferable to go for ML. Statistical approaches may not. Statistical approaches is for limited data sets.
Okay.
Limited data sets. Yeah, you have something to say.
Sir? No, sir. No, sir. You can.
Okay, so that's the idea.
Okay, sir.
So, so now with that in mind, now let us proceed.
Sir, one more small clarification, sir.
Yeah.
So then all the machine learning systems are like perpetually learning only, sir. They can't like really
perpetually learning. Yeah. You cannot stop learning. You should provide with new data and you should keep learning. That's a power of a network. Because Google data, Facebook and all, nowadays they are giving a lot of recommendations and all. So these recommendations, they are doing it only with the help of data, labeled data.
Okay, sir.
And spam mail, identification of spam mail, again, it's only with labeled data. Okay, what happens is, over a period of time, the people who are trying to cheat, they will come up with very different new ideas, innovative ideas to intrude inside your system. Okay, these spam mails, they come in different, what do you call them? They call it as, they will try to invade your security, okay, with some novel wordings and all, okay. Because the spam mail means when you're going to check for labeled data, you're looking for a particular keywords in the mail.
Okay, sir. Okay,
if those keywords are not there, then you will not be labeling it as spam mail. So in that case, these keywords are been changing every day. Okay, these guys, they are very innovative. They're coming up with advertisers, particularly advertisers. Okay, they will be coming up with new ideas and they'll try to keep changing. So it's essential for us to come up with more number of new data to train your network to relearn again. Relearn and new weights and new biases you have to identify.
Okay.
In order to work with this kind of problem. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir.
So that's what. See, there is a course on Coursera. I don't know. Many of you might be knowing it. He is a very famous professor, Andrew Ng. I think for COVID 2019 reasons, they are offering it for free. This course, you can do it in data certificate also. Okay, I think few of you can take this course. Those who are interested. Okay, Andrew Ng, and he has covered extensively about the spam mail related problems and all. And he has given some assignments also. You can go through that. That will give you some insights for you to work with your project. Okay, so keep thinking, moving in this direction. Some good material, learning materials are there in this domain, neural network particularly. Okay, but now I would like to introduce you to the technology called fuzzy logic. So far, we have been talking about something like learning systems. So this fuzzy logic technology is more of rule based. Okay, you fix rules. Learning is very limited. Learning is almost nil. Once you fix a network, that's all. No learning. Okay. So this fuzzy logic technology, in fact, they applied it for a lot of real world products. Washing machines, bullet train, camera, okay, a lot of real world electronic goods and products. They have applied this. In fact, Japanese they in fact promoted literally this technology. During 1980s, 90s, they come up with a lot of products. Because any technology will flourish with products. Okay, for example, the machine learning community is very active. The past 10 years, the reason is all big giant companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, all these giant big companies, they have adopted this technology and machine learning. That's why the technology is very active now. People are researchers are working and everyone is trying to concentrate. The same manner during 80s, 90s, Japanese have come up with this fuzzy logic technology and they promoted it by applying it in many products. Fuzzy logic was, in fact, much more popular. Okay, popular during 90s than machine learning. Popular among technocrats. During 90s, more than ML. Okay, more popular than ML primarily because of the real application. Products were not there. For ML, the problem is it was in the research end during 90s. No products. Products are very limited only. Limited number of products. No product. Literally somewhere I can say no products. Limited number others I can say. Okay, some products they employed, but mostly it was limited. Now, so what is this technology about? Any fair guess? How to understand this? What is fuzzy logic?
Sir, it's like not just 1 and 0, there are in between values also.
You come up with some application or examples, something related. Fuzzy, if you look at the word fuzzy, immediately you can get a feeling of something not clear, vague, a kind of confusion, not concrete enough, slightly ambiguous. Okay? All these will come to your mind. Fuzzy, whenever I say fuzzy, so the logic, so when somebody say logic, what will come to your mind? Something very concrete, something very clear, clarity. He is talking in a very logical manner. Somebody is going to say like that, immediately you can get it. The ideas are all very clear and it's a very logical way he is talking. No ambiguity. Okay, ambiguity means confusion. Okay, ambiguity, no ambiguity. Words are not ambiguous. It means it's very clear. So the same manner, logic is something like this, concrete, clear. So when you are talking about the classical sets, okay, you will check whether a particular element, okay, belongs to a set or not. So in that case, when you define a set of apples, for example, then it's very clear. Set of apples, very clear. Apples will be in a particular set. They belong, all the apples, they belong to a set called apples. So the classical set talks about something more like this. So we are going to talk about people who are all tall, for example, in class. Okay. People we are trying to measure the tallness. If you are tall, short. So you fix a range 6 feet above tall, below 6 feet short. Okay, 6 feet above short, 6 feet below short. So in that case, we are going to define the set value. Okay, so here is the 6 feet. All the people who are below the 6 feet, they'll be given a membership value of 0 in the set top. Is it clear? And anybody with above 6 feet and above will be given a membership of 1. Are you getting the point? What I'm saying? Is it all right? What I'm saying? You got the point? So you fix a set called a tall, and you fix a range 6 feet above. Then in that case, the membership functions for the set tall looks like this. All the values below 6 feet will be given 0 membership. It means that those elements they don't belong to the set tall. Are you getting the point? And those elements above 6 feet, they belong to set with full membership. So what is membership? Membership is nothing but the degree of closeness. Degree of closeness of an element to a set. So what is the degree of closeness of an element? An element in the case a person is 7 feet height, tall. Can somebody tell me what is the degree of closeness? The person is 7 feet tall to the set tall. In the set tall set, I defined it 6 feet above. What is the degree of closeness?
One.
Full one. Yeah, full one. Okay. And likewise, what is the degree of closeness if a person is 6 feet tall in the set tall? Again,
0, sir.
why? 6 feet above.
6 feet and 6 feet above.
And above.
Then 1, sir.
1. Okay. So if it is 5.9 feet.
0.
Can you see why we are going for a fuzzy logic here? What's the reason now? What is it you are doing here? Like in the case of neural network, when we used a hard limiter function like this, I said one reason why we are going for something like logistical. Remember neural network. So what is the reason I said? We were a little harsh, okay, in identifying a person with 0.49 and 0.51. Remember recommendation, movie recommendation. Immediately for 0.51 we give the full rating is all right to recommend, and for 0.49 we won't recommend. So, and there also I said we need to go in for a smooth function like between 0 to 1. Remember the same idea here. So 6 feet tall is given 1, and 5.9 feet we are giving 0. So this is a very harsh kind of decision. So instead of that, what we are going to do is we are going to fuzzify this data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same classical set, okay, and I'm going to define a set called a fuzzy set. Okay, instead of a classical set. Classical set tells you whether an element belongs to a set or not, either 0 or 1. That's a classical set theory. The fuzzy set theory, we are going to, as somebody said, it's going to be between 0 to 1. Okay, so in that case, what I'm going to do, 6 feet is here. I'm going to choose an area, something like this. A membership, something like this. Okay, so this membership is called 0 to 1 membership. Normally, you represent membership like this. Okay, and these are all the elements in the fuzzy sets. So a person with 6 feet will be a full membership of 1. Can somebody try to explain this graph a bit? From your end, what you are observing? Anybody? Gurparan? What is membership?
We are instead of limiting it as only 6, we are approximating as minus 1 from this and plus 1 from there.
Okay. So what is membership, man? Membership is degree, you did not forget this one. Degree of closeness of an element, okay, to a set. So membership mu indicates 1 means the degree of closeness is what? Very close. It's fully closed. It is inside the set fully. But we have something called grading values between 0 to 1. So it can be 0, it can be 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6. So all possible values are there between 5 to 6. So a person with 5.5 feet in the classical set, he would have been given 0 membership. But here in the 5.5 feet in the fuzzy set, this is classical set. In the fuzzy set, you can give him a membership of 0.5, okay, in the set tall. And he can also be given 0.5 in the set short also. That's very interesting. Okay. So in the set short also he can be given some value. Now how do you give that? So look at this case. In this case, 5 feet, around the 5.5 feet is here. And he is given some value of 0.5 here. In the set, this set is called tall. Tall set. But what is the natural question that comes to your mind now? Is that something you want to ask me by looking at this graph? There is some problem, inherent problem.
Sir, greater than 6 feet, why is it reducing to 0, sir?
That's a key question. Very good. Very good. You are with me. Okay, that is an important question. So that can be addressed like this. See here, I am in my mind, okay, I am going to fix a set tall with 6 belonging to completely the set, and any other value apart from 6 will be given some reduced membership. This is a set tall. That word is very important. Set tall. Now I can define one more set called very tall. This is very tall set. Now look at this. This 6 feet is not going to have any membership in the very set tall. But a person with 6.5 feet, for example, he will be given memberships in both in tall as well as very tall. Okay, a person with 6.2 feet, 6.2 feet or 3 feet, okay, he will be given a smaller value in the somewhat reduced value in the set very tall. Okay, tall. So, for example, I can do something like this. Instead of doing this, I can do something. I can take values from here. So this is another way of writing some kind of membership value. This is called trapezoidal membership. So an element in a particular set need not belong to only one set. It can belong to 2 or 3 different sets. 2 sets, for example. Okay, and yeah, but 6 is given when as soon as you give 1 to one particular element, then it is fully belonging to that particular set element. You understand? For example, this 7. For example, 7 is here. The 7, where you are giving one value membership, then it belongs to that set alone. Okay, that set alone. So see, this is more like so this is another. I can fix one more set like short, and then I can go for one more set. Okay, something like very short. Okay, so I can divide my space into number of finer definition of sets. Okay, make it sure that you define it properly using your linguistic proficiency. So it's more like a qualitative way of looking at a quantitative data. So this is why this has happened really is, it's coming under a domain called an expert systems. For example, a person who is operating in a boiler with around 25 years of experience, maybe operating a controller, a PID controller. Every time when output is increasing, I will decrease. Again, KC, KI, or KP, or KD. You will tell in words. Okay, it's more like a qualitative data. So once you capture that information, you have to build a kind of an expert system. So every time if this condition happens, then I will take this corrective action. So it's kind of rule-based equality. Okay. So fuzzy logic, in fact, stems from this kind of rule basis. Okay. For example, if error is large, then the controller output is small. This can be a rule. It's all qualitative. Qualitative means not quantitative. Okay, it's more like using your linguistic skills you are trying to explain, not quantitative manner. Okay, so you are converting a quantitative error data into number of fuzzy sets in a qualitative manner. Okay, and then you are going to work with that data by appropriately defining this kind of rule base. So any fuzzy logic we'll take up some examples and see, then you get more clarity. But right now, get a feel of this. All fuzzy logic technologies, basically they are going to take some decisions based on what? Some inputs. Okay, and it's going to take some decisions. Then you have an input, output, all fuzzy inference system, they call it fuzzy inference. Then the input, a quantitative input, need to be converted into fuzzified form. It's called the first step of all implementation, fuzzification. Then in the fuzzification stage, okay, you have to define sets with appropriate membership values, like triangular membership values. Whatever you are seeing here now is a triangular membership. So you have to define membership like this. Then, having defined, having classified the data, maybe you need to apply the rule basis, build rule base. More like if, then, condition. Okay, and the third one, once having obtained the rules, okay, you have to carefully work out with the rules. Yeah. Third step involved in it is called defuzzification. Because in the real world data, you have to apply only quantitative data decisions. For example, you are working with an actuator. The controller can be a fuzzy logic controller. but the output should be a quantitative number only you have to give to the actual. For example, 3 psi, 4 psi. I want to open the ball. So in that case, we need to again defacify to get back quantitative numbers. Okay, so these are all the 3 steps involved. For any fuzzy logic technology, you have to facify, build rule base, and defacify. You will understand about all these 3 cases in a very proper manner, but I will introduce you to some of the books which you can refer to if you are interested. Number 1, there is an excellent toolbox in MATLAB, very powerful toolbox, heavily employed for a lot of applications. For one, if you want to apply, if you want to work in this area, you can do this. The second one is MATLAB Fuzzy Logic Toolbox, followed by the book by Fuzzy Logic for engineering applications. It's a very famous book written by Timothy Ross. It's an excellent book. And in order to work with MATLAB along with some kind of problems and all you want to check with, conceptually this is very good book. Okay, and we have other local author books. With people from India, they have written on this. An excellent book by Fuzzy Logic using MATLAB by Sivanandam, Professor Sivanandam and Deepa. They have written excellent work. They have done a good work in this one. Okay, and you can also refer to Principles of Soft Computing. It's a good book, Soft Computing, wherein neural networks also covered by the same group, Sivanandam and Deepa. Okay, so these are all some of the reference materials you can refer to. For Fuzzy Logic, it is not like ML group. Okay, the learning community is not active nowadays. So you will find very limited resources in the online, particularly video material, good video materials, or code. Everything is very limited. Okay, a kind of standstill. This domain is not really picking up. Maybe you type in Google. There is a website called Cura. Maybe you type and check with an answer why Fuzzy Logic, when comparing to ML, is not really picking up. Okay, maybe you'll get a lot of answers, interesting answers. Completely, this domain is down nowadays. We have set this syllabus some around 15 years back. No, 10 years back, 2010. Okay, so but we are teaching it because there are some industrial applications still people are using Fuzzy Logic. There is a journal in IEEE related to Fuzzy Logic also, and people are trying to bring in, okay, ML coupled hybrid, they call it, neural network plus fuzzy, in order to exploit the power of Fuzzy Logic for ML applications. That's another one happening domain. Maybe you can refer to that. They call it as hybrid systems. See how we can deploy Fuzzy Logic under the NN or machine learning framework to enhance the power of ML. This is something you can think of also. This is another research happening domain. Okay, people are trying to mingle because this is a very Fuzzy Logic is a very mature domain for over almost 50 to 60 years. People have contributed and it has matured. Now suddenly people are not interested. Means we need to exploit the power by combining it with ML. So that's why researchers are thinking of improving in this direction. Okay, so you can think on that direction. So then we have this another tool. In fact, the last unit we are going to learn briefly. That is called evolutionary computing. Okay, we know our any idea evolutionary computing? Anybody? The class? What do you mean by evolutionary computing? Any answers from your end? Any guess? What is evolutionary computation?
Sir, like it's like generation-based generation learning.
Excellent, Kailash. Okay, any other answer? So it's about see, evolutionary computing is you can immediately imagine what is evolutionary theory tells anybody?
Survival of the fittest.
Biological. In biological term, it's called survival of the fittest. Fittest is something, it changes, okay, from generation to generation it changes. So during 80s, I don't know, how many of you have seen the movie The Gangs of Newark? Have you ever seen this movie before? Have you heard of this movie, Gangs of Newark? Okay, I don't know. 1880s and all, in New York City, only the gangs, okay, they control the entire city. So in that case, the survival related to, fully related to muscle power, okay, during that time. But nowadays, if you look at New York, okay, the guys who are sitting in a software company, they are ruling. They are getting all the wealth, all everything. Okay. So a guy who is sitting in a software company to working for 18 hours, 12 hours, he is getting more money. More money means more protein. More protein means everything is more. Okay, wealth is more. He'll get all the what do you call better kind of support from the society, and he will flourish. But a guy with a big muscle, without of much intellectual capacity, gradually he will be losing the game. Okay, you understand? So evolutionary is something related to societal kind of social conventions also. It's related. Okay, so evolutionary theory is saying that survival of the fittest. What is fittest is something we need to fix. So that's where the problem of fitting function comes. The objective function they call it. So by minimizing these kind of objective functions or maximizing, using some biological ideas, it's very powerful. For example, genetic algorithms, wherein you try to think in terms of the solutions in terms of a chromosome. Okay, you try to develop chromosomes with a particular solution, and then you will mutate. You do something like mixing this. A lot of the, what you call operations you perform over the chromosome in order to get the next generation of chromosome in a much better way. Better solution. It's more like better solution. So solutions evolves. It's called evolutionary computation using optimization routines in a biological framework. So that you call it as a computational, it is what you call evolutionary computation, evolutionary ideas. So we have a lot of around 30 algorithms are there right now. In fact, which I have referred to a book by Dan Simon, can refer to Evolutionary Algorithms by Dan Simon. It's a fantastic book. The professor in the US, Dan Simon, has written a book on this. Maybe you can refer to. There are some 30 algorithms he has mentioned about in that book. Dan Simon, just type in Google, you'll get it. Evolutionary Algorithms by Dan Simon. So you will see that algorithms like ants colony, particle swarm, algorithms like genetic algorithms, and bee, honeybee, okay, how they perform their operation. It was studied and an algorithm is built. So all these are basically optimization routines. But some inspirations from this kind of behavior, animal behavior, and how they build their colony, how they cooperatively work. A lot of AI-based techniques nowadays, they call it as multiple agents working together. They are looking at animal only. When they build the algorithms, in order to behave like in a particle swarm. Swarm means it's called a domain in robotics called swarm robotics is there. You might have heard of swarm robotics, multiple agents. This idea, in fact, has stemmed from animals. Okay, so how they behave jointly, in a group behavior, how it is like that. They study this. Sociologists are involved in building algorithms. Sociologists and animal-related people, people who study animals. Naturalists, what's the name of them? I don't know. So those people, they are involved in building this kind of algorithms. It's a very interesting area. Okay, so that is another one thing we need to see. So neural network is about first 2 units. Fuzzy logic, unit 3 and 4, and in the unit 4 you have a little bit of genetic algorithms, evolutionary. That's our focus. Okay, so I have introduced you to perceptron and one learning algorithm. So by next week, take 1 week time. Try to build one Python or MATLAB code for perceptron. Train it with some data set, and I will raise a kind of assignment one in Google Classroom to submit it. Take 1 week time. I don't think it will take that much time because already you are quite comfortable with perceptron. You can build your code on your own. You can build it. Okay, even you can use C also, but I prefer Python or MATLAB because I'm comfortable with these two. So C, I'm not that much. I don't prefer it in my end. So you work on these two, either Python or MATLAB. But if you are ready, if you don't know completely Python or MATLAB and I know a little bit of C, then maybe you can go for it. C. Okay, because the learning community is also not that much. Machine learning community is more supportive of this Python and MATLAB. C is not that much widely popular among machine learning community, at least. Okay, C and Java. Okay, so think of Python or MATLAB. Is it all right? Is there any doubt you have in this assignment? What I'm expecting from you, is it clear to you? I'll raise the question. Yes, assignment question in the Google Classroom today. Yeah, take 1 week time and submit. Okay, all right. Any doubt?
Sir.
Yeah, Murjara.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, are you able to hear me, sir? Sir,
Yeah.